execute on that.
Yeah. So I said, how do I do that? So I learned a lot of work from Peter Drucker on management, and I combined the best of the West and the East, the philosophies of management, and wrote this book. I wrote this book in 6 months. That was the intensity with which I was able to write it. And I put my boss on the cover page. Of course, not his photo, a lookalike of that. And I put myself and my other colleague on the side wing of the book. So anybody who looks at it will make it appear as if my boss does all the work. But the moment they take the book and turn the flaps around, you will be able to see myself and my colleague.
Yeah.
So
what's
doing actually lifting the
what's behind the curtains doing the work.
Doing all the work.
The back end.
Yeah, the back end. The guys who do the work. So the market went crazy. It became viral. This was 24 years ago.
Yeah.
And did your boss ever find out that you had a caricature of him on him?
I was like, that could be IP. I was like, I'm not a tax advisor or a lawyer. So.
I'm glad you said that. It's a good little disclosure.
Yeah.
Because we may eventually get to some tax advice from Franky.
Yeah.
So that could be pretty cool. So it sounds like your grandma taught you quite a bit, maybe more than you learned in business school.
Yeah, I did 2 MBAs, and I didn't learn much from my MBA. It was MBA stands for money before anything. So
you know what PhD stands for?
Passed with high difficulties.
Piled higher and deeper.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I learned another one. Yeah, so I learned more from my not from the MBAs, but I actually learned more from my grandma and my mom. Very, very strong women. So that kind of rubbed on to me.
Sure.
Tough at core, but very easy and joyful on the exterior.
If I understand correctly, she taught you, let the world know that you're clever. Maybe this is a way for like a heuristic or a shortcut for people to say, you know what, this guy's sharp. Yeah, I want sharp people on my team because smart people do smart things.
Yeah.
So maybe was that a way to kind of communicate that?
Absolutely. She basically said 2 things, which clearly, one is she said, increase your circumference. Very interesting concept, because I was basically kind of a frog in a well, because I was trying to impress my boss and trying to work on projects, but some of things were not working. So the answer to that problem was look beyond the well that you are currently in, right? So I increased my circumferences. How do I do that?
A well to an ocean.
How do I do that? So I went and told my grandma, maybe it's time for me to quit this job, go to another. She said, no, you're not a quitter. Increase your circumference. She just keeps saying, increase my circumference. I'm like, what do I watch?
So it's kind of cryptic.
But she's also like what Nick you said, show your cleverness without hurting people's ego. That's a tough one, because nobody likes a smart ass.
Yeah.
Nobody likes a smart ass.
Yeah.
So Dash.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how do we make sure that you are clever and communicate that at this? So the way she explained that was again cryptic language. Each one of us are intelligent. Franky, Nick, all of us are intelligent. To be able to stand or sit on a spinning world, that requires a lot of intelligence.
Yeah.
The Earth is rotating at a fantastic, phenomenal speed and
revolving around 1,000 miles an hour, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And not just that, it's also revolving around the sun.
Yeah.
And then the sun and the Earth together is revolving around the galaxy.
Maintain a balance.
Just to be able to stand on a spinning piece of soil, right? I mean, not just piece of soil. It's awesome. So we are intelligent. And some of us are very smart, but not all of us are clever. She gave me she helped me in terms of understand the difference between smartness and cleverness. Smart guy, moment he or she finds a problem, that's it, they're done. They can't handle the problem. They're very good at when things are going their way, but if there is an obstacle and they can't overcome that hurdle, they get disillusioned. I was a smart guy. Then she said, don't be a smart guy.
Yeah.
Be a clever person. What's the difference between a smart guy and a clever guy is a clever person will convert something even that's against that person turn it around. That's the ability to turn something
Yeah,
around.
like almost jujitsu.
Jiu-jitsu.
Using that kind
judo
of-
or aikido.
Yeah,
It's using their energy or their force against them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
What about you, Frankie? Have you ever come across anybody who maybe was trying to throw some shade, or maybe came at you with negativity, and you just overwhelmed it with confetti and love and happiness, and it just kind of completely shifted the whole scenario?
I would say, I mean, a lot of the business relationships are like that, right? Most of the people very, very skeptical, right? And I realized, I was like, energy doesn't lie, right? And so I work really hard to push how we approach people in situations. And so that is a really good point that you put out. I would say, I pick and choose my battles, right? It's hard not to have an ego, because I was actually just asking Google the other day. I was like, wow, like what are we without our egos? We're just bags of energy, right? How do we communicate? Wow. How do we talk to one another? How do I let you how do you let me know your business style, right? Because that ego, it's still a signature. It's still how you curve your eyes and your dot your T's, right?
So I think it can be done in a way that is thoughtful, still delivers good content, but you can share the energy and the wavelength and the frequency that you're on.
Yeah.
Dr. Nico is amazing at this.
Yeah.
In fact, we did the Ageless Evolution Summit October 11th, which was just a huge success. And one of the things that I had not slept in literally 2 days.
I bet.
But it was amazing. Like,
it's awesome because I got to sleep from doing a 30-minute demo on that bed, which I still got to follow up on.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the Amswell. Well,
yeah.
What we kind of figured out with Dr. Nico, who's an applied neuroscientist from Greece, he flew all the way over for us. We did like a post-game breakdown. In fact, it's on the Silicon Zombies YouTube if you want to check it out. He has an amazing way of communicating truths in education and interesting biological insights and how we function as humans, but also dropping beautiful words like confidence and positivity and love. And he does it in a seamless way where you're there and you're just like, oh my God, like I'm learning and I'm being pumped up.
It was funny because you really hyped him up, and then meeting him in person is a whole different animal.
Yeah,
I tried to set the bar low. No, you didn't. No,
not for Dr. Nico.
I was like, once you realize he's a Pomeranian person, I was like, oh, the floodgates.
Oh yeah, for sure. Speaking of the floodgates, we are in a pledge drive right now, and so this is local community radio. If you are feeling generous and you want to donate to KPCR, go ahead and head to kpcr.org or donate.kpcr.org and participate in the Frosty fundraiser pledge drive. and in fact, it was pretty fun because just a couple days ago we had the Lost Scouts parade and we were right here. Well, actually we're out on the patio.
How was it being the face of a parade?
Yeah.
Dude, I was just some ding dong on the radio, man. the real face of the parade was all the local, the kids and the cheerleaders and the marching bands and the local civic leaders and the 1940s automobiles. Like I'm talking drop top. I'm talking, Frankie, you got a really pretty cool. In fact, Frankie, tell us about your cool car and tell us about the process that you came to find your monster truck.
Well, I've always been a car person. I would say I actually dedicate my whole life to my cars, right? I grew up, my parents don't make too much money. They're middle income. So I wanted the most expensive cars. I wanted all the most beautiful cars. And from that, I learned how to be very resourceful, right? I was given a lot of cars and opportunities, right? My clients give me free cars all the time. Actually, I just got a free Mercedes E320 from my client, Danny. And it's a blessing to even, own that car.
Wow.
Like I wouldn't be able to buy and maintain that car myself, right?
Yeah.
And I was blessed to own a car before this, which I helped one of my buddies. I helped him make some picks on his companies, and he made some cash. So he was like, Frankie, I don't need a race car anymore. I have a kid now. Would you like to buy my race car? And I traded him my BMW E39. 2000 for his 2012 FRS.
Wow.
Yeah, with like $25,000 worth of mods.
Yeah.
And I was driving that around everywhere, right? It's a really big reflection of my personality. Super loud, super annoying, and just everywhere.
No, dude.
And it's funny because I realized that's how I pick people to do business with. I look at the cars that they drive, and it's a big reflection of who they are, right? It's funny because that's how I do business too.
Our external world is a reflection of our
Internal world, most definitely.
So if PK, if you were an automobile, what kind of car would you be?
Tesla.
Nice.
Yes.
It's very calculated, refined. Yeah,
Refined,
he's supercharged.
Yeah,
I like
For
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Sleek.
Able to be plugged into a medical device to be used whenever.
Yeah.
Like you could really use them as batteries. Like in a worst case, end of the world scenario, you really can't use them as batteries, and I think that's pretty amazing in itself.
So,
But the vehicle that I would be is my monster truck from my mentor Nick, a 1947 Willys Overland, a monster truck. And it's funny
this thing doesn't even have doors on it.
Yeah, and it's funny too because I work a super
does it have
corporate
a door?
job. Yeah.
The tires are like taller than me.
You want to climb into it?
Yeah. No, I'll give you a ride sometime, especially around Santana Row. It's really funny because they all have Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and people are like, "What is that thing? It looks like a time machine."
Yeah, you can see it coming from a long ways away.
Yeah, I'm a monk. From my end, you can see I'm a monk who sold my Mercedes 350 and bought a Tesla.
That's not a monk. I was like, that's the top level of monks. I was like, you're gonna be the monk mob boss.
I think that digital monk would be kind of like a cool, like maybe name for a show or something. And it is kind of a unique scenario, PK, because you are you went to an Ivy League. You're a best-selling author. You're an entrepreneur, an engineer, an investor in great companies like Hassam Jafari's Buzzable, who's a dear friend and of the show.
Shout out to the Buzzable.
Yeah, shout out to Buzzable.
We love you, Hassam.
Buzzable.com. So if you want to check out local event experiences and event management.
Yeah.
So help us unpack all of that.
Yeah. So before that, two guy when I was actually interacting, wanted to invest into event companies, and so I asked them give me some names of some really nice guys. The two names came up. One was Nick, another was Isha. Okay. At the time, I didn't get a lot of opportunity to meet up with you. You were busy. So I get an opportunity to see him, and I was observing, and then everybody was basically saying, "Hey, he's a nice guy." So I said, "Okay." And one day, he was actually looking for some fund to grow his company, and at the time, I had some incubation fund coming in. I run actually some syndicate of fund, and I wrote him a check.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So to answer your question on my journey has been a lot of very interesting twists and turns. I did a lot of education. Went to Stanford as well, Berkeley, and pretty much all both the East Coast and West Coast. And I did my postgraduate in UT Austin, Texas.
May I ask
also teach.
how that kind of changed or shaped your trajectory of your career, and like what was your biggest takeaway from that?
When you study a lot, you become very left-brained, very logical, and less emotional. That was my understanding of introspection. So the way to balance that out is to basically interact with folks with heart and love and compassion, like Nick, Isham, and many of my couple of other very good friends. This world is now turning out to be more left-centric, very logical, very calculated, very transactional. I think we need to cultivate compassion as well. Love, joy,
I think
for generations, cultivating compassion. I like that.
Compassion.
Also, are you guys thirsty? I think we have some water. I want to make sure that you're being taken care of.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Gotta stay hydrated.
Oh, yeah. Would you like your tea?
Not that I need to be giving health tips to a health tech professional.
I was like,
it's a good one. That shows you how much you care, Nick. So that's essentially one of the reasons why when you asked me, I said, yeah, it's 80 miles, no problem, I'll be there. You're a very lovable person, and then I'm glad to get connected with Franky as well.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
You know, it'd be so cool, and I'm not so sure exactly how this would work. I guess some degree of like biometrics and maybe computer vision, but if we could capture the amount of energy flowing between one person and the other, that would be pretty wild. You know, like imagine
actually the subconscious processes more information than we could actually physically measure. I think we would have something that has to do with the physical reality of our quantum world. Like I think that would be the
Physical
biggest.
reality of our quantum world. Okay, so let's can we shift to the AI piece just real
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a beautiful dovetail. And before we do that, quick station identification. You're listening to KPCR 92.9 FM in Los Gatos, KMRT 101.9 in Santa Cruz. That's Pirate Cat Radio, Silicon Zombies, Brainwaves. But PK, help us unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Let me give you an example of AI because a lot of folks know AI is artificial intelligence, right? And Chat GPT, everybody talks about it. But if I have to give you a simple example of AI, why AI? Let's start with an analogy: oil, right? Data is the new oil. We are consuming data like no other thing that we are like air we breathe. We are consuming a lot of data. Even the conversation that we have goes through a lot of data transformation, and then before it gets on the
magic.
it's magic. So we're consuming a lot of data. AI is the oil rig. Data is the new oil, and AI is that oil rig that can go inside, refines it, and
I like that.
Yeah, because there's too much data.
It's infrastructure.
So
yeah.
are
It's
the,
too
are
much
the
data.
models like the cars eventually that use them, or
The models are the filters
okay?
to convert crude oil into something very
It's
refined
just
and
super high level.
super highly
Okay.
defined. So that's what the models. You want newer models so that you can get pristine quality refined gas that you can put it in your car and drive your life. Artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
That's
They say that great leaders are wonderful listeners and great storytellers, but also really good with analogies.
yeah.
So you like check all three of those boxes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So when I read, right, I actually it is said that this world is full of doers who can't teach and teachers who can't do. For 25, 28 years, I've been learning and teaching. So what I learned during the weekdays, I actually teach as adjunct professor during the weekends for executives. So I do conduct programs in universities for the postgraduate program in AI, cloud computing, and managed services. So because of that, it helps me share knowledge. It gives me that joy. And while we are teaching the executives, these are not young students. These are like folks who don't have time during the weekends, but they want to learn about AI,
Invest in
and
themselves.
invest in themselves.
Yeah.
So I teach them, and they ask a lot of questions,
Yeah.
and you learn from that process as well, and then use that learning back into work and use them in positive, constructive fashion. That's what I do. You can use AI for good purposes as well as bad purposes. My job is to basically help in terms of the uplifting lives and spread more love. My name of the company is also on healthcare, is also healthcare AI is Life Amore. Life and
Life and love.
love. Amore
Do-
being love.
Do you ever get surprised with some of the questions? Like, do you ever
All
get
the time.
any curveballs?
All the time, Nick.
Okay.
So some of these guys are like CTOs,
The smartest of their kind.
Smartest, yeah,
they're kind of. Of course, they're gonna ask smart questions.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ball game. It's a
Yeah.
whole different
Yeah,
game.
they ask you a lot of those questions because they themselves could not figure it out. So that's why this analogy does help. It simplifies because they also have very short attention span.
Yeah.
The more you learn, you have lesser time for others in your own thought process. People live in their own heads. So we have to simplify the whole message in such a fashion they understand. Oh yeah, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. Even for my Life Amore, my healthcare company, I recently got raised $1.5 million for the company, and to communicate that, what is that we do? It's essentially it's itself an art. Like Life Amore essentially stands for life and love. We are here to save life and spread love. We're building America's AI-powered disease prevention hub. Why? Because radiology is at the center of that disease prevention space. If you screen folks earlier, you can prevent them, save lives, and you can prevent them from becoming a patient. Because the corridor that exists between patient and a person and being a patient is the radiology or the screening process.
Oh, you catch it early.
Yeah, and catch them early.
Yeah.
Catch them early. So then it
And
becomes a
back to
simple
the data.
Yeah, it's data.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's why the issue right now is not data. Issue is too much data.
Good, clean data, not
Good, clean
garbage data, not
Yeah.
like actually synthesized, sorted through, racked and combed, and
Right.
organized neatly.
Yeah,
Right.
you're absolutely right, Frank. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the so we live in a era where there's a lot of data. You need a tool to make sense out of the data. That's where AI comes in.
So it's like intelligence on demand.
It's
almost.
intelligence on demand.
Okay.
So, and how do I filter that and get the needle out of that shaft?
Mm.
Get what is relevant for me, and not just that, applied AI. How do I apply that to benefit people, benefit the masses? That's the key requirements today. 2025 is going to be a defining moment.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Recently I heard some really smart people saying, well, the only folks that are making money on AI is NVIDIA, which seems like such baloney to me because, if you look at startups now, they're hiring less people because they're able to be 50% more effective. If you look at GitHub, half the code on there is AI generated. So it's like just like early stage innovative startups were the ones that embraced like the cloud revolution, for example. Well, the same thing is happening in AI. So the efficiency in the space, and even if you look at how far it's come in the last year, like have you guys played with Sora by chance? It just got released yesterday.
No, but I've
Again,
seen
LBDMs,
videos,
yes.
yeah.
That's our job. So we play with all the models. See, one thing is very clear, Nick. AI is here. It's not going away.
Mm-hmm.
We have a love-hate relationship with AI, right? Some of us love it, some of us hate it, but it's going to be there. Again, what my grandma used to say: if you can make a friend and get the job, then why make enemy out of it?
Wow.
Right? So AI, we should not make
Win,
enemies.
win versus I love that.
Yeah. So let's make AI our friend, so that it can help us make more money.
Okay, so that sounds like a techno optimist kind of approach. But what about what about potential bad actors? I from what I understand, and again, this is all happening live.
Yeah.
So it's all fresh. But my understanding is that Sam Altman and some of the team tried to shut down one of the models, and the model lied and tried to replicate itself because it didn't want to get shut down.
Yeah.
Should we not go into these with eyes wide open, PK? Like, how can we use this tool to make money and enjoy the process and not live in a space of fear, but also be thoughtful because there's potentially some existential
You're
risks here?
absolutely spot on. It's going to, with all powerful things, we're going to have side effects. And the key there is to make sure that it has proper governance, models that is put in without disturbing the process of innovation. That is the balancing act.
So who makes those rules though? Because governance means rules, and somebody's got to write them.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is a part. It has to be democratized so that it is not sitting with some lobbyist and then a few people controlling the technology.
So AI is for.
Yeah. spread the responsibility across to the masses, not just one person or a group of people, but as much a larger community that is possible.
I think the bottom line is education, right? I think if we're able to educate each other about, the safety of it, the dangers of it, what we can use it for to help others, what we can use, like what we should be aware or afraid of. I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, interesting, right? So knowledge actually doesn't hurt. It's the lack of knowledge that always hurt.
Yeah.
So we have to get as many people instead of treating grown-ups as kids and say, oh, I can give this is like an army knife, Swiss knife, they can hurt themselves. Instead of saying that, we have to treat all the consumers of AI as adults and tell them, hey, you can actually find jobs, you can invest with the AI, you can spend your time on the beach while your AI can invest and make money for you by the time you come back home.
Yeah.
I know you love surfing.
Yeah.
So if you just imagine you start your AI bot and then say, hey, look, make me $10,000. I'll be back from my surfing.
Yeah.
You come back and you find $10,000,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's already happening.
That's
now
already
with
happening.
Yeah.
So multi-agent.
Are either one of you guys passively making revenue off of AI?
I'm actively making money out of AI.
Well, when I say passively, I mean like, it's working while you're doing the things that bring you joy, like hanging out with friends or something.
Yeah,
surfing.
yeah. Interesting question, right? We are not going to find joy interacting with AI for now. It's still some distance away.
But
We're going to find joy only interacting with
Really,
people.
I love the relationship that I have with AI, even with my father. Just this, because my father, he was a wafer fab, but he doesn't know too much about software. Actually, my fascination from software comes from him bringing home a floppy disk with Super Mario Brothers. Right, that was my mind blowing. Like, Dad, you could do this. You could put in the computer. And now seeing me teaching him how to use AI to write a letter for his nonprofit, right? And it takes him like less than 30 seconds, him just putting some random words into it.
Can you talk a little bit about your dad's nonprofit?
Yeah. So my father runs Associates of Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 201. My father, my mother and father, they don't make much, but they donate all of their money to this nonprofit that literally helps anyone. I mean, my mom and dad hoard stuff just to literally help anyone, right? But their main focus is giving military people who fought in the Vietnam War their best burial, like a proper military burial. So that's how me and my parents, my father shares the passion of firearms together through that nonprofit. We educate people how to handle them properly, the value of a human life, like they're like amazing things together, and just the structure, the chain of command about the military, actually some of my friends that I met through Idea to IPO and your network, Matthew Berkler is actually filming a documentary on my father about his story, right? My father has some gnarly stories about being a prisoner of war and why his political stance is very conservative and why he's very anti-communist. It's like a whole thing he fights for every day of his life.
It is kind of interesting, like the quote unquote, to kind of reel us back a little bit. We think we're in a democracy, but in reality, it's probably closer to an oligarchy. Like if you look at the folks that are making the decisions that are having like a marked impact on the future, it's like these kind of technocrats, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg, the guy created a social network. Now he's dictating, and I don't mean this in a pejorative fashion, but he's just like making very real decisions that impact technology and
there are two categories of people in this world, the one with the power and those without the power. So that's the two category of folks. So it's true, right? That's why democracy is very important, because it allows you to release that power to everybody. It's a very important process.
Power to the people.
Power to the people. Power to the people.
But isn't it kind of more of a republic? I mean, we've got 350 million people. How many legislators are there? Probably not that many. Like
they definitely don't respond to my letters. I'll tell you that.
Talking about AI, that's where it's going to democratize. Initially, we are finding the pain of AI, but eventually, that's going to be the companion for it. Each one of you would have additional companions that can be your voice. Because if you want to reach out to 350 million people, here is your opportunity. And not just AI, it's also the cloud as well. If you look at Amazon Web Services and GCP, these platforms allow you to compete with some of the largest organizations in the world, the multi-billion-dollar corporations in the world, just with this one subscription.
Yeah.
You can just open a subscription free tier account in one of this cloud, and you can
get credits. Get credits. Even as a nonprofit, you can get credits for marketing, all kinds of stuff, right? I think that's what's amazing about America is that they give you the opportunity to become that technocrat.
Yes,
the opportunity of America. Yeah.
Like I was telling you, right? The word America in Chinese actually means beautiful land.
Wow.
Okay, so we have the opportunity to fix and make things improve with time. We have to look at a longitudinal view of the whole process. And in the process, there will be good actors, bad actors. Like in any society, we'll have the good things and bad things. But we'll have to evolve with time. And that's what in the last 250 years has proved us. We evolve. Sometimes we devolve, but we will ultimately evolve. it's like the stock market going up and down, but it's always going.
And then also too, I don't know about if you study technological S curves. I may be completely wrong on this, but sometimes there's a point in the curve where it never even goes down at all, and there's a possibility we could hit that too.
So first of all, how cool is it that that the word for America in Chinese means beautiful land?
Yeah.
I just asked ChatGPT how to pronounce it, so I could like hold it up.
Sure.
But for some reason, I think it's too many requests, concurrent requests. I think that's probably because of Sora. Sam Altman said that they, like, by an order of magnitude, had underestimated the demand for Sora.
If only he did that with his funding numbers, huh?
Shots fired. So Franky, let's shift over to you a little bit here. And before we do that, we do have the phones live. So 408-357-0330. If you want to call in and ask a question for either two of these delicious brains, that's 408-357-0330. Franky, can you give us like maybe a high level on some interesting fun, and as a disclaimer, yada.
None of this is financial advice.
Right, right.
You consult your tax professional and lawyers and financial professionals. Actually, that's my biggest advice of all that I could give is that,
go talk to somebody else.
Yeah, go talk to somebody else.
Wow,
and that's actually my biggest thing that I've learned being a salesman and being in sales. Actually, most people would disagree with how I run my business. I'm probably the most negative at New York Life. Like, I really run my business just to build infrastructure and relationships.
Negative is not a word I would describe to you.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, simply numbers wise, right? I would say I'm probably the most negative in terms of quota and everything, but I build business a lot differently. I build off of relationships and opportunities that I can serve my people with. I think that's how I'm
just long term.
And it's interesting, and I realize that, and I realize even that's almost my rite of passage as being a business person, is that seeing where sometimes you can't, it's embarrassing not being able to pay for your girlfriend's meal or for a friend's meal, right? But then you realize the reach of your own people. Like, I realize my clients are willing to go above and beyond to feed me, like to build relationships and take me to doors that I would never even imagine myself being in for my age, right? These guys make 50,000 times what I make in a year, right? So I think it's really crazy how you mentioned your grandmother, because my mother and father, they emphasize, I don't care if you become really rich or successful. I care that you're a good person to good people. And it's crazy how something so simple really makes such a big impact. And it's really a blessing to know that knowledge, and to know that sometimes you don't have to know it all, just to know the next step above. To tell it to the next person. Because that could create a whole landslide of crazy, consequences that is actually a good thing.
For sure.
And a setup for something way greater than ourselves could even imagine, right? We were talking about the Dutch East Indian Company, right? Except I'm more about morals than principles, and I would never hire slaves, right? I would want to make sure my people are paid first and I eat last. That's just, servant leadership, I think, is the best way to serve your people.
Well, and that's why people are attracted to you. And PK, I'm sure you have like a similar experience.
So interesting you mentioned about Dutch East India Company. So we know the East India Company, for the damages that it did. It took nearly a lot of time to get back on the roads, get back on the feet. So, but that part of the process. We should not hold anything.
Like hold grudges, right?
Absolutely.
I think there was a lot. I think there's a lot of pain and suffering throughout. And I would use my mother and father as a great example of that, right? My mother grew up without mother and father, like completely an orphan. And my father even tells me himself, he's like, oh, your mother could have grown up a prostitute, but she grew up to be the most caring person, giving person, and she would give the shirt off her backs if she could, right? And I think that's why I have so many opportunities to sit in amazing rooms with amazing people, is because I'm willing to give that.
Absolutely. And irrespective of all our differences, right? The one thing that's common is, what is that one thing that we all want?
Love.
A lot of people say happiness and love. Actually, the one thing that we all want is growth.
Yes.
Growth.
I
You're right.
that.
Spot on. Growth. Because everything in this universe either grows or it dies. There's no standstill. There's no middle path. We all have to grow. If you have to grow, the two things are required. One, relationship. Two, skill. So you talked about relationships. That's one of the reasons why you were able to. Your focus on building relationships has given you a lot. Car, capital, and growth. Right. I mean, ultimately, you want. But skill is also very important, equally important. So that's why I spend a lot of time in universities to share my knowledge, and in business to work and learn each opportunity from each person. So when you meet a person like I think was it Leonardo da Vinci or one of the another great minds who said, "I've never met a person from whom I could not learn something new and interesting." So every time you meet people, if you learn from them, build the relationships, care for them, give them that extra few seconds that they deserve. Then I think that's what they like about you, and you build a relationship. You can always call them, and when you need some help, you can call them, and you should be also willing to help them out when they need. So once you have that, it's expensive from a time point of view and sometimes capital point of view, but it does work magic.
And maybe it makes you feel good about yourself that you were able to practice patience and give somebody who maybe needed it a little extra TLC.
And I have this wisdom told. Learned from somebody. I won't name it. So it said, expect people before you meet anybody. Expect them to be nasty. If they behave well, that good behavior is a bonus for you.
From grandma. That's from grandma.
Yeah, my grandma. That's right. And if they behave badly, you are anyway not disappointed.
Wow.
Because
so
you went to
low expectations. I love that. Actually, what I learned with my business and my parents is they taught me something, because I'm a true optimist, right? I'll walk into a door and I'm like, I see opportunity everywhere. I was like, I don't even know your name. That's an opportunity already, right? And with my parents, it's like they see it as the negative side of it. They see it's like, oh, like there's a bunch of risk. And it's interesting how now I work at an insurance company. It's like I learn about the structure and the system that we have within each other to make like such a big difference with just small scale of knowledge. I think that's the biggest thing that we touched upon.
So Franky, speaking of which, what are like some interesting maybe gems of knowledge around, again, not tax advice, but what are some simple, easy, practical applications of shifting about maybe what you claim or how you set up your business that could have a drastic impact and a big bang for the buck, so to speak, for
honestly, it's going to go back high level, back to people. I would say investing in the people who you truly think have it the best for you with the relationships. Like, I would not be anywhere in business if it were not to be with the people that I build my business with. And I hate that it comes back to always about people, but like, the numbers are important. Of course, the numbers are important, but the people, to me, to be honest, the numbers don't really matter when your mother's on your deathbed and all of your friends are around you on that deathbed, right? I hate to use like extreme examples, but that's the picture I have to paint, right? As
your priorities are in line. I was just trying to figure out like maybe what would be like some interesting insights, because you mentioned that's what you do professionally, right? And so
I would say that is really truly investing in the people and basically from building that, you learn that with a body of knowledge comes that responsibility. And my mentor taught me this, is that the only responsibilities that we have with each other and with our younger generation is to teach. I'm useless. Well, I'm literally useless if I don't teach the information and pass it on. And it's the same with energy and money. It's literally me educating about money and generational wealth. It's like putting $1 away from.
If I may add, Franky.
Sorry.
This might be helpful. There's an ancient wisdom that says, those who do not have blessings have no place in the next world. Those who do not have money have no place in this world. This was told some 5,000 years ago by a very wise
my father tells me that too.
If you don't have blessings, you have no place in the next world. If you don't have money, you have no place in this world. This still holds good, right? We need money. We should not shoo away money. The only issue is it should not become greed. We should have a passion for making money. You should have passion for giving money.
Because it's a tool to
Yeah,
do
it's a
great
tool.
stuff.
However, along with that, how do we get there? What is the smartest, most optimal way of getting there with joy and pleasure and happiness? If that's what you feel.
And even crossing boundaries of doing business with your own values and principles as yourself. I realize it's like learning the business and structure of it all is actually the greatest mirror of my own personality. I was like, wow, it revealed more about me, about myself, than other people to me.
So Franky, once you have these insights into yourself, what do you do with that knowledge?
Is to help other people, like literally just to pass it on, right? It's what do I do with the greatest gift of all? Right?
You give it away.
You give it away.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of the present.
So my approach is slightly different. I actually 100% respect your approach, give it away, but I wanted to add a little nuance to it.
Yeah.
When we give it away, we have to be careful
who we give it to. Yes, I like that. And that comes back to wealth preservation and
Yeah.
generation and the side that you pick, where like being smart money, like it's really. And it's funny how we talk about this because my mentor at 14 years old, right? He taught me to invest in Starbucks and Oracle. Those were my first stock picks, right? At $14 and $8. And it's funny how literally picking the right person to lead us to the right, the right goals and the right path is very important.
Yeah. One of the two successful people is Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger.
Oh, yeah.
Their strategy, very smart, very, very smart, but simple strategy. They say there are three types of people: people who are transactors, people who are relationship focused, and people who are givers. Now, if you are transactor, you will only do transactional business. You give X, you take Y. Those guys are not going to become rich. Essentially, you give some, take some, right? It's only linear relationship. Little bit margin, maybe 10%, 15%, 20% margin, but that's not going to get you. That's not going to compound and give you a lot of wealth. The other folks are their takers, guys who always take. They'll come and ask for money and then borrow and they never give back. They are successful initially for the very first time because they've taken the money and not given back, right?
They know how to take something.
They know how to take it.
Yeah,
right?
and that's actually a skill itself. Yeah.
Avoid them. However, but sometimes you can't avoid them, right? You have to. But then third category people are people who are givers. But the problem with just giving again has two category of people. You have to, when you give, somebody is taker, then you keep giving, they keep taking, giving and taking. You end up losing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's where Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, when they choose people, they choose to give to givers.
Ooh, I like that.
That's the beautiful recipe for growth.
They're not victims.
They're not victims because that money comes back to you.
Yeah.
Directly or indirectly through
exponentially
exponentially.
Just kind of push back a little bit. And by the way, I love how you're able to put these things in very simple, digestible pieces. So thank you for that.
Sure.
I will say though that it is important to be transactional to some degree because you can give, but success happens when an actual deal is happening.
Yes.
And
I know disagree with that.
I know that. No, Franky. Okay, hear me out.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just going to give you a counter.
I'm glad. I'm glad that
this is
just
good. I like the
right.
conversation.
Think about it like this. If somebody is constantly giving their time and their resources and their money and their energy away, and they're left, deflated. They're left empty.
Yeah.
However, if they give it to the right people. And those, let's just keep it simple, those two people are working collectively towards something and an actual deal happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
A deal transpires. There's goods or services that are exchanged for money. Well, guess what? Now you've got a little bit of something in the kitty to play with.
Yeah.
And then you can invest that and you can do more with it. And then it starts to grow.
Yeah.
Like these, if you're not doing a transaction, nothing has transpired.
Yes, the power law of growth.
Yeah.
What you're referring to is the accumulation. People talk about, right, cumulative power, right? When you invest, reinvest. Same thing in relationship. You got to invest your time and energy to givers.
Yeah.
When you give to a giver, that giver will either give it back to you or give it back to somebody else. That giver will give it back to somebody else. It comes back. And I've seen this happen as magic. And whenever you need, you can call them. they get things done. They're not transactors.
They
They're
will
going to
help you move at
They
4
will
a.m.
help
in
you
the
move
morning.
things faster.
That's the true friend. Yeah.
That's a true friend, and they'll know somebody because you're only 6% away from the person who is going to give you the deal.
So let's toss this back over to Franky because Franky wanted to push back against me pushing back.
Yeah, and I would say that a truly successful person, and it talks about it in The Strangest Secret too, which Sonny Smith, one of my buddies, told me about. Basically, success is a man who chooses to do what he does and does it.
Yes.
Wow, and keeps it simple.
Not even a transaction. Yeah, I would
Okay.
say the person who chooses to sell ice cream to the childhood kids in the neighborhood, right? I would say she's a success because she chose to wake up and do that every
Give
day.
it.
It's
Give
very
to givers.
fundamental, yes.
Give to givers.
Yeah,
That is the beautiful wisdom from
excellent.
the Berkshire Hathaway success.
Oh yeah.
But then you have the Vietnamese moms fighting each other to pay the bill, then no one ever pays the bill.
So we are actually almost at the top of the hour. I wanted to thank both of you gentlemen for coming in here and sharing your wisdom and your laughter and your stories. Adore both of you guys.
It's an
This has
honor
been
and a pleasure.
super fun. Maybe would you like to leave us with some parting thoughts? Of course, we want the Silicon Zombies community to be helpful to you. So maybe is there a website that you can urge the audience to go check out?
Yeah.
Or
First, I want to say, Nick, please accept a gesture of gratitude and respect for your time and this opportunity. I really love it. I love you, brother.
yeah, likewise.
And Franky as well. So it's been great.
Oh, it's only the beginning. I was like,
you guys are like old friends.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, well, I think before we even met here, we had to meet plenty of thousands of series times before.
Yeah, exactly. That's the feeling of comfort. And one of the things that I can recommend folks who want to actually make money, make wealth using the power of AI and healthcare. Healthcare in US is actually broken. We have a sick care system. Me and my partner, we are fixing that system, and we're going to make sure what other healthcare players are not being able to do. They push everybody towards the hospital care. We want to make sure that they don't have to end up becoming patient. So name of my venture is called Life Amore. Yeah, so that's lifeamore.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Prasanna Kumar, PK, thank you so much. And Franky, 15 seconds.
I don't have a website, but you guys can just call me on my cell phone number at 408-332-8276. I would love to help any business and any families that love each other and want to help.
That's
Right.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, Franky, you're about to get just so much spam calls.
I'm gonna say that.
It's okay. I was
You're-
like,
you're
that's what
brave.
it's meant for. I was like, that's what it's meant for. I was like, the spam is a good thing. Sometimes I love spam with my bread.
There you go. There you go. Well, guys, this has been another delicious and nutritious episode of Silicon Zombies Brainwaves on KPCR 92.9 FM in Los Gatos, KMRT. That's right, the Blue Light Special.
Wow.
101.9 FM in Santa Cruz, Pirate Cat Radio. And again, shout out to our friends at Nicodex. That's NECODEX if you need design or product help. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.
Ooh.
Thank you, guys. All right, appreciate it. All
Good
right,
energy.
Thanks for the love.
Give it up for
cool.
Nick.
Right on.
Thanks. So much.
Thanks. That was so much fun. Do you want me to help unplug these?
All right, way to go, guys. That was superb.
Is Silicon Zombies a nonprofit or it's